police have been called, and the police come over, and they're like, what did the man look like? And they over here taking notes and stuff, and he's like, he doesn't know what to say next because he didn't think this far. And that's how I feel like Trump must feel about Epstein, because it goes so deep. It's like he didn't think this far in the lies.
Josh Johnson didn't just roast Trump. He obliterated him with surgical precision and comedic firepower that left the room gasping between laughs. In a blistering no-holds-barred set, Johnson dismantled Trump's ego, hypocrisy, and bluster, flipping each absurdity into a punchline that cut sharper than any debate zinger. The audience wasn't just entertained, they were electrified, watching in real time as Johnson turned political satire into an art form. This wasn't a comedy. This was a masterclass in verbal demolition.
Down 1,000%, 600%, 500%, 1,500%. Numbers that are not even thought to be achievable.
Yeah, I also thought it would not be achievable to lower drug prices 1,000%, because that's not how percentages work. Just so you understand, lowering drug prices 100% means it's free. Lowering it past that means they're going to give you money.
It's a rare thing to watch a grown man's ego get turned into confetti in real time. But Josh Johnson made it look like a Sunday hobby. He didn't just roast Trump. He dismantled him like an IKEA bookshelf with one missing screw. And the beauty of it, Trump wasn't even in the room. It was like watching someone dunk on a basketball hoop that didn't realize it was part of the game. Johnson went in with the precision of a surgeon and the enthusiasm of someone who just found out the patient is their least favorite person on earth. He started peeling away Trump's persona. That carefully cultivated blend of billionaire mystique and uncle who insists the moon landing was fake until all that was left was the political equivalent of a half-eaten cheeseburger.
DOJ came out after interviews saying, oh, there's so much information, we're just trying to figure out how to put it out there in a way that's clear. Oh, there's so many files, there's a list of names, there's logs, there's a client list. After saying all this stuff in the media, the DOJ comes out and says, actually, the investigation is closed. We're not going to be prosecuting anybody else. And I think we got to the bottom of it. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Every jab landed harder than a Trump golf cart hitting a sand trap. The man's track record was basically a comedy buffet. And Johnson wasn't about to leave a single dish untouched. Bankrupt casinos? Check. Four Seasons landscaping press conferences? Check. Hair that defies both science and the Geneva Convention? Oh, absolutely checked. And the delivery, effortless. Johnson didn't raise his voice, didn't sweat, didn't even seem like he was trying. That's the worst kind of burn. The one where the roaster looks bored, like they're peeling a banana while casually dismantling your reputation. He painted Trump's legacy as if it were a paint-by-numbers set completed entirely in crayon. The crowd laughed, but in that way where you know deep down, yeah, that's accurate though.
About tonight, Donald Trump is losing his mind and his hands. He's inventing new ways to do makeup wrong, and he has a dream that one day he will not be judged by the content of the Epstein files. Let's kick things off with distractions. What it looks like when they're fed to the media and what it looks like when they don't work. Because right now, Donald Trump is desperate to move on from the Epstein files, but the story is only building. To me, look, Trump actually does have a plan here. It's not to put a cap on the drug prices. That'd be too easy and simple.
We're working very hard right now to get the other countries to lift up their prices a little bit and to get the drug companies to put it to them. And if they don't, the drug companies will have a lot of problems, and they are mostly agreed to it. And if the countries don't, then as an example, if it's Europe, I'll say that's okay. You're no longer allowed to sell cars.
We're working very hard right now to get the other countries to lift up their prices a little bit and to get the drug companies to put it to them. And if they don't, the drug companies will have a lot of problems. And they are mostly agreed to it. And if the countries don't, then as an example, if it's Europe, I'll say that's okay. You're no longer allowed to sell cars. Somehow Johnson managed to distill years of erratic decisions, late-night social media meltdowns and photo ops that looked like rejected SNL sketches into a series of sentences so sharp they could have sliced through a mega hat. It was ruthless, but the kind of ruthless where you nod in approval because frankly it was overdue. He went after the deal-making genius myth with the same energy you'd use to pop a balloon. Because let's face it, if you're branding yourself as a master negotiator, but end up shutting down the government over a wall that never really got built, you're less art of the deal and more oops, all fumbles. Johnson didn't even have to exaggerate. Reality had already done all the heavy lifting.
Elon Weir and Trump didn't say anything about it the entire time, acting like he didn't see it. Like, that's not who he is as a person. Trump is a natural bully. Like, that's what he does, you know? And he was very nice to Elon by omission. I'm not just talking about what he said, because Trump is always using superlatives if he likes you. If he likes you, you're the best, smartest, most amazing that's ever done it, right? That's how he speaks. But he was nice to Elon by what he didn't say. No? Because you gotta remember, Donald Trump is the same man who roasted the supreme leader of North Korea.
Then came the greatest hits. The obsession with crowd sizes, the bizarre geography lessons, the memorable Sharpie hurricane map moment. It was all there. Johnson's tone made it sound less like a roast and more like a curator presenting artifacts from a museum of bad decisions. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is the rare mispronounced country name specimen preserved in its natural habitat of a live press conference. The beauty of the set wasn't just in the punchlines. It was in the way Johnson wove real history into the comedy without breaking stride. He reminded the audience of policies and blunders that when revisited sound even more ridiculous than they did the first time.
I could tell Trump was hurt by that South Park episode because the White House released a statement. There are school shootings where the White House doesn't release a statement. The White House released a statement. They were like, hey, look, South Park hadn't been relevant for a while now anyway. Nobody even watched. Ain't nobody crying.
It was like watching a nature documentary where the predator is completely unaware it's about to be on the endangered list. And speaking of endangered, Johnson didn't let the environmental stuff slide either. The man who once mused about the virtues of clean coal got roasted harder than the planet he was deregulating. Johnson casually pointed out that it takes a special kind of leadership to look at melting ice caps and think, you know what? This needs less regulation and more golf. By this point, the audience was doubled over, not just from laughter, but from the realization that Trump's greatest comedy writing partner was Trump himself.
Stand that they clear Congress out for the summer like they found a dookie in the pool. But trying to shut down the release of the files only makes them more interesting. So over the last week, Trump has been throwing every distraction he can at us. And I want to go through some of them to show you how desperate he's getting. Let's start with his go-to distraction. Obama!
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama after.
Johnson was just the translator turning political chaos into punchlines sharp enough to pop the inflatable ego they were aimed at. He tapped into the international moments too. Those legendary summits where Trump looked like a man trying to bluff his way through a group project without having read the assignment. Johnson described them with a kind of cinematic detail. The awkward handshakes, the confused expressions, the palpable tension in the room as other world leaders tried to remember if this meeting was real or just a very expensive episode of reality TV. And Johnson didn't shy away from the contradictions, the constant shift from self-made genius to victim of an unfair system, depending on which narrative played better that day. He compared it to a weather vane in a hurricane, spinning wildly, but insisting it's always pointing in the right direction.
Obviously, Elon, richest man in the world, and as long as there's been money infused in politics, the wealthy have had a ton of influence. That's nothing new. What was about to happen was unprecedented. This rich man was about to actually get to go in the government himself. No back channels, no liaisons. He was going to go in the government himself. He was going to end every investigation into him and his companies. He was going to fire everyone investigating. He was very excited. And I guess he was more excited than any president we've ever had, because all of our presidents have kept their feet on the ground the entire time. There's no...
And then there was the legal stuff. Oh, the legal stuff. Johnson laid it out like a Netflix true crime docuseries. In episode 1, we learn about the mysterious documents. In episode 2, the plot thickens. By episode 6, the lawyers are billing so many hours they've started buying vacation homes. Every laugh was underlined by the sobering reality that these were not fictional story arcs. They were headlines. What made it work wasn't just the accuracy. It was the absurdity of realizing that if you pitched Trump's political career as a sitcom, a network executive would reject it for being too unrealistic. Johnson didn't have to fabricate a single thing. He just connected the dots, and the picture that emerged was equal parts comedy and cautionary tale. He even got into the branding, the slogans, the catchphrases, the nicknames, all of them stripped down to their core and exposed for what they really were: bumper stickers pretending to be policy. Johnson mused that if Trump ever actually ran out of ideas, he could just repackage the same 3 words in a new font and call it innovation. The crowd roared because deep down they knew it wasn't far from the truth. It was that perfect blend of satire and reality where you laugh, then pause, then laugh again, because the pause is just you realizing, oh no, that actually happened.
Because, you know, this dude rolls up and pretty early on, I say first 3 minutes, this dude said she was Indian, and then one day she just turned black. He said turned black. And I was like, Donnie, what else you got?
By the time Johnson was done, the image of Trump that remained wasn't that of a political titan or a feared opponent. It was more like a man wandering through his own theme park, trying to convince everyone the rides were his idea while ignoring the fact half of them were on fire. And the set didn't end with a bow or a MIC drop. It just kept rolling, because there's no real end point when your subject keeps adding to the material. Johnson left enough threads dangling that you knew this roast wasn't over. After all, when someone insists on staying in the spotlight, you don't just step away. You grab more popcorn and wait for the sequel, which is the beauty of roasting Trump. The man is a content factory. Give it a week, maybe even a day, and there'll be something new. Another speech, another rally, another eyebrow-raising headline. All just waiting to be translated into comedic gold. And if Josh Johnson's set proved anything, it's that the gold mine isn't running dry anytime soon. Because if there's one thing Trump excels at more than self-promotion, it's accidentally giving comedians fresh material. Take the Sharpiegate incident. Only Trump could turn a hurricane forecast into an art project that looks like it was done by a bored third grader on a rainy day. Johnson described it as the first time in history a weather report came with an autograph and the crowd lost it. Somewhere actual meteorologists were probably clutching their diplomas, wondering if they'd just been outworked by a marker.
So we are doing tariffs?
Damn right we are. I ain't scared of shit.
Not even more expensive housing?
Tariffs are off.
But that will increase the trade deficit.
On again.
Well, what about the price of breakfast?
Off in the morning, on at night.
But Canada is retaliating.
Off with Canada, on with China. We'll go to war with China. I don't give a
Josh, China has nukes.
No tariffs on China. In fact...
Who could forget his Gulf diplomacy? Johnson pointed out that Trump approached international relations the way most people approach minigolf. Ignore the score, cheat whenever possible, and then declare yourself the winner regardless of reality. If there was a Nobel Prize for sand trap avoidance, maybe he'd be in the running. Until then, it's mostly just a collection of taxpayer-funded vacations with a side of photo ops. Then there were the handshakes. Johnson dedicated an entire segment to the most awkward handshakes in modern history. It wasn't just that Trump shook hands. It was the sheer performance of it. The yank, the pull, the prolonged grip that made world leaders look like they were trying to retrieve a wallet from a stubborn vending machine. Johnson imagined them afterward, quietly icing their wrists and re-evaluating their career choices. And the rallies, endless, repetitive, and somehow always more surreal than the last. Johnson painted the scene. The same soundtrack, the same greatest hits, the same promises with the expiration date of a gas station sandwich. The way he described it, attending one was less like participating in a political movement and more like going to see your favorite band, but realizing they only know 3 songs and one of them is just the chorus on loop.
Elon and Trump are fighting. And it's like Christmas came early and twice. Like, the only person calling for peace is Kanye West. That's crazy.
Johnson didn't spare the post-White House business ventures either. From new political action committees to an ever-expanding merch empire, he called it the most successful garage sale in American history. Why stop at political slogans when you can slap them on everything from coffee mugs to dog sweaters? If there's a blank surface, there's a marketing opportunity. By now, the audience was beyond laughter. They were in that rare state where every example just reinforced the absurdity of the whole thing. And Johnson's genius was that he wasn't ranting. He was calmly unpacking a suitcase stuffed with 4 years of material, holding up each item like a souvenir from a vacation nobody asked to take. The final blow came when Johnson framed Trump's career as a never-ending pilot episode for a reality show that refuses to get cancelled.
As much as I, pick on Biden about talking, Trump has his stuff too. Like, I remember that time he tried to say origins. In case you haven't seen the clip, it's phenomenal. Basically, it's rough, because I'm not even kidding, I'm being real with y'all for a second. I did feel bad for him in that moment, because you can tell he know the word. You can tell he's trying to say orange, or he's trying to say origins, and he keeps saying oranges. But he doesn't mean to. It's like when you keep texting the same autocorrected word and you don't mean to.
He said the plot doesn't move forward, the characters never develop, and yet somehow you keep tuning in. Partly out of morbid curiosity, partly because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't. And that's the thing. For all the bluster and branding, the true legacy Trump leaves behind might just be the sheer volume of moments that feel like parody without any help from comedians. Johnson wasn't creating the jokes. He was excavating them, dusting them off, and holding them up to the light so everyone could see they'd been sitting there the whole time. By the time the set wrapped, Trump wasn't the looming political figure of years past. He was a caricature of himself, a man who had become his own Saturday Night Live sketch without realizing it. Johnson didn't just roast him. He filed the paperwork, signed the death certificate, and handed the audience a commemorative coffee mug on their way out. And yet, you could feel it in the room, this isn't the last roast. Trump is still out there, still talking, still handing out material like free samples at a grocery store. Johnson closed the night with a knowing grin because everyone knew the truth, all they had to do was wait. The next chapter was already being written, and it was probably being tweeted.